You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, where today is a conversation about money and why accruing more of it won't actually give you the relief you think it will. For most 20-somethings, your first or second job out of school is going to make you feel like you are scraping by. Probably because you are. You're not making a ton, cost of living is through the roof, and you don't want to miss out on all the experiences of your 20s that comes with making friends, dating, traveling, and just living your life. The result puts you in financial strain. Now, your parents could be funding some of your life, but if you don't learn the balance of your money and your relationship to your spending habits, then you're in for a rude awakening when your parents eventually stop supporting you financially, because they will. So this episode is to help you better understand why your relationship to money has to change, why more money isn't the answer to financial security, and of course, how to begin cleaning up your finances so you don't feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck. What's unfair is that you're working 40 hours a week, and it still feels like it's not enough to live on, because it's not. You're not delusional, it's just what it is. And it's not because you're buying a coffee every Friday, as the boomers love to remind us of. It's also not because you're foolish in your spending habits. It's really because you're not making a ton. But you're also not adjusting to your new means of living. What I mean is, you're used to living a life supported by your parents' income, where you're living within their means. And then when you start working and making your own money, you cannot expect yourself to keep up with your same living standards simply because that's not what your money is capable of just yet. This is where side hustles and second jobs like to fit into the picture, and is why I want to be the one to tell you that making more money does not equate to you achieving financial safety. In fact, what happens is, because you're making more money, you're going to be spending more money and still feel like you're scraping by. This is due to the fact that you haven't learned to live within your own means, and the attempt to accrue extra money outside of your full-time job is proving to be a band-aid fix to your money problems. More money magnifies your spending habits. It does not correct them. Yes, money solves problems, but only the problems you're already aware of. Poor financial management just is going to create new ones or keep up with the same ones. I have a client right now who came to me because he wants to clean up his spending habits. And at first I was like, oh, he probably needs a financial advisor, not a life coach. But then as we got to talking, I realized it was all of his adulting habits that led to his spending habits. And I was like, okay, this is my wheelhouse. His immediate solution that he thought of was to get a second part-time job to help him not spend money in his free time and get him earning more money at the same time. Which, in theory, is a solution. But if your routine isn't in check, or what you're spending on / not tracking any of your finances, then that's where it becomes a band-aid fix. For example, if you don't check your bank statements and just swipe your credit card, what makes you think any of that will change with a bigger salary? Or if you overspend now, what's stopping you from overspending with more money? Or if you're tired after work right now, what makes you think adding in an extra job is going to help? You're going to be more miserable. Now, I totally get that more money helps. It definitely makes life easier. So that's not what I'm saying. It causes less stress on your personal life, and you just feel like you can breathe. Trust me, when I tell you, I understand all of that. My first job out of school had me making $36,000 a year. My second job was $42,000, and then before I left, I was at probably about $45,000. That was in 2022. And then I became a solopreneur. So my income excessively dropped for about 2 years, and I would say I'm currently making about what I would have been making if I had stayed as an interior designer. I've never once in my life made six figures. I had to learn how to live within my means and then adjust for the sacrifices I would make to my savings and to the other parts of my life when I made the leap to live above my means. And it was a well thought out decision. That was when I moved from Orlando to Charlotte and my rent doubled because I was choosing to live alone. However, I did live with roommates for 2.5 years, which helped me save a lot of money. I personally do not think anyone in their lower 20s should be living alone unless their first job out of school is six figures. That's my own opinion, but it's also the realistic part of adulting that you simply cannot afford the luxuries of living alone and living your life right out the gates, which I know is not something you want to hear, but it's the truth. It is expensive to exist out in the real world, and you need to adjust your expectations accordingly. I personally have never had an overdraft problem or have lived paycheck to paycheck because I am a really good saver, as it stems from growing up with not a ton of money available and with a single mom. My money habits stem from subconsciously learning the belief that I am responsible to myself and need to be able to take care of myself without relying on someone else to do it for me. And that's not to say my mom hasn't stepped in financially to support me. She has, full disclosure. I lost my job when I was in the middle of a lease at 23 years old, and I am very fortunate to have my mom tell me not to touch my savings and that she would pay my rent and my groceries, my two largest bills, until I got a job again. And this was during the pandemic where no jobs were available. So for 6 months, she supported my life. That support helped me make my transition from unemployed to employed to self-employed much easier because I didn't have to dive into my savings while I also wasn't qualifying for unemployment assistance or for any of the stimulus checks. I tell you this because it's not shameful to have your parents help you out, but you also need to learn how to help yourself so that your reliance on them is temporary because there is going to come a time when they pull back, whether you want them to or you're able for them to do so or not. And I don't want you to get caught with your pants down. I get it though. It's hard to live life right now. It's been hard for the last 5 to 6 years. But what I want to tell you is that you don't have an income problem. Yes, you're underpaid for today's lifestyle, but you also haven't adjusted your lifestyle to be, well, your own and not your parents'. Their vacations, their groceries, their home, everything changes. And your paycheck just can't sustain that same lifestyle yet. So how can you begin to live within your means, and what does that even look like? And before you roll your eyes, allow me to tell you it doesn't have to be as restrictive or boring as everyone makes it out to be. I am a huge advocate for still being able to have fun and live your life, but there's a way to do that where you're not overspending on a month-to-month basis, which is exactly what I told this client when we first started working together. I assured him that the last thing I want for him to do is give up all the things he enjoys. But in order to enjoy these things, you need to develop a stronger relationship with your money coming in versus going out. And that is in the form of a budget sheet. I know, boring, but hear me out. I heard this saying once and I adopted it to speak to my clients. And it's, money is like women. If you don't pay attention to her, she'll leave you. So you need to do a deep dive into where you're spending your money and get clear on how much you want to be able to save on a monthly basis to begin building up your emergency fund, which should be able to cover about 6 months of your living expenses if, God forbid, something happens to your income, which in today's job market, we can almost guarantee that's going to happen. You should also know your exact monthly bills: rent, utilities, Wi-Fi, insurance, average grocery bill, gas, any subscription you have, or any other regularly occurring bills. Add all of that up and subtract it from what you make in a month. That leftover money is what we're working with. Once you know that number, you're already going to have a better understanding of what you can do with your money, or if you need to change where you live, or yes, even how much you make. Then don't forget to subtract how much you want to save each month, because you do need to save every month. I would recommend starting with $50 to $100. Now we have your remaining balance. But before you get scared of that number you're seeing, I want you to take it one step further and identify your non-negotiables. What are things or experiences in your life that you absolutely refuse to give up? You might have to lessen the spending on them, but not give them up entirely. There should be at most 5, but realistically 3. If you have 16 different non-negotiables, then you're fooling yourself with your income. Because a non-negotiable isn't there to justify getting everything you want. It's about controlling your indulgences. But these 3 to 5 are so you don't feel like you're giving up everything fun in your life. And you only go to work and go to sleep because everything else is too expensive. It could be that you must go out with your friends, or there's so much peace a Friday morning coffee gives you, or you love buying a new outfit every month. It gives you something to look forward to. Whatever it is, you need to decide how much you're going to allocate towards that non-negotiable. And don't forget that your non-negotiable should not eat up all of that remaining income. It's not a goal to spend all of the money that you have left. It's to help you better understand the balance between living within your means and not giving up the things you enjoy to help you live your life. Because your remaining available balance is for the extras or even the slip-ups. For if you go overboard in one category, or if you have a trip you're going on, or if you have car problems or a wedding to attend. After you identify your bills and your non-negotiables, it's time to get real with yourself and figure out where your weak spots are. Is it that you don't plan ahead for your meals and end up spending extra on eating out or DoorDash? Is it you get carried away when you go out, so you end up spending way more money than your sober self intended? Is it you have too many online shopping tabs open and just have to get all these items and then say, oops, I'll try to do better next month? The client who inspired this episode topic makes a lot of purchases when he goes out and what happens when he goes out. And he's not my first 20-something client guilty of doing this, because it's really difficult to control impulses when you're under the influence. Which means you need to give yourself limits, either in the form of a prepaid credit card or cash. Since the obvious solution of continuing to swipe and check in with yourself is not going to happen once the night gets going. It's what's leading to your reoccurring money problem. And it's why more money won't solve anything. But rather, learning to live with your current means, knowing what's going on with your money, and how you're spending it and what your habits look like is the root solution to your problems. And how it's not about shrinking your life. It's about getting realistic with what you're capable of indulging in and designing your life according to your realistic standards and habits, not what you're used to. And once you have that foundation built, that grasp on your finances, is when more money actually does start to help you. Just remember to increase your percentages in every category when money starts coming in. And by that, I specifically mean the percentage of money being added to your savings. But you're not alone with having a money problem in your 20s. It's why I'm making an episode on it. No one feels financially stable when they're just getting started on their adulting journey. So don't be so hard on yourself for feeling like you're the only one scraping by. It's expensive out there. You're not paid enough for the rising cost of living. But more money isn't the answer, and that's the whole point I'm making in this episode. So thank you for listening to another episode of How to 20-something. If you liked what you heard, learned something new, have a new way to look at your money, or know someone who needs this kind of help, then please share this episode, send it to a friend, post it to your story, and then tag me so I can see it when you do. Just please do something to help me spread word that this podcast exists. I can't grow it without you. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.